And I'm taking a bit of a trip down memory lane today with my training. I find it quite hard nowadays to get really focused for any sort of competition, really, and certainly for the sort of flat time trials in this area. I've done a lot over the years, and there's not much in them left now. The fields are getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and the age-related stuff is tending to be played down more. So and it has to be age-related when you get to my age, when you're 60. So I've sort of lost a bit of me. Sort of oomph for doing those, really. I can't road race anymore. I haven't got the speed. There's not enough age-related stuff in this area. There are crits on closed circuits, but closed circuits are me. Just forget it. It involves corners. They're flat. Just no. So anyway, one way and another. I used to love grass track as well, I have to say. Same sort of thing, really. Haven't got the speed anymore. There's no age-related stuff. So I haven't got an awful lot to do. So this year I'm kind of just enjoying the cycling, really, and I did Nordax at the weekend, and I'm doing sports eves and things like that, and it kind of works for me. But I do like to push myself a bit every now and then. So what I'm doing today is an old course that was used for time trials back in the 80s, and I used to love this course. It was used for an early season event. And there was one particular one, which I'll come to in a moment, which was 40 years ago, and that's why I've chosen to sort of visit it today. So this particular course was used for an event called the Essex and Suffolk Border Combine Hilly. It was the day before the Grand Prix of Essex, which was a classic road race, and before I was good enough to ride the Grand Prix, it made a really good weekend because I could ride that and then help out at the Grand Prix on the Sunday. So it kind of worked well. And the other reason I liked it was that, for me, my favourite sorts of events are the ones that are tough. But this one's nice. It was a 32-mile-ish course, varied a bit, and it was rolling. I mean, it was Suffolk, so it was never going to be a mountain time trial, but it was rolling. And for 4 of the 6 editions that I rode, it finished straight up quite a decent climb into Glemsford. For people who know the area, it's the B1065, which comes up out of the Glen Valley, and you could see riders approaching with a couple of miles to go, coming through the village of Stansted if you look carefully and you have binoculars anyway, and then they turned left and finished up the hill. And after you'd done 32 miles, although it's not a mountain, that hill really used to hurt. Anyway, first year I ever rode it, I came 13th, I think, and I averaged only just over 20 miles an hour. I put a note in I used to give a training log in those days, and I put a note in my training log saying that I'd got caught up in various bits of traffic and I got stuck behind a queue of traffic behind a horse at one point. Next year I did a bit better and I was about 1 mile an hour faster, and I came in 4th that year behind Ken Platts, and that was the year that was the real classic, and I've put a photograph in here for you and you can kind of see why. I've had a lot of photographs taken of me over the years I've been cycling, and this remains one of my favourites, really. Now, this is exactly 40 years ago, or at least as close as exactly as I can get. I should have done this in March, but other things were happening at the time, and I didn't. So I'm doing this as close as I can. But that year, I averaged just under 22 miles an hour, and it snowed. Snowed quite heavily before the start, and then it carried on snowing during the event. Nowadays, they'd cancel it. It was a great event. I mean, it was really, really, really tough. It was sort of soaked, cold, but it was one of those ones that you remember, as you can tell. And so anyway, I'm revisiting largely for that one. The following year, I came in 6th. It was Ken who won it again. I went a little bit faster again. In fact, that was my fastest ride, I think, on that course. I came 2nd, 3rd and 2nd in 87, 88 and 89. I never managed to get the win, and I should have done on at least one of those. One of them I blew up, and really I should have had it that year, but, and it's a bit of a regret that I didn't. But I'm now just over 60, and obviously when I did these rides, I was anything from just short of my 20th birthday, right through to just short of my 25th birthday. So in other words, I was getting quite close to my peak by the time I rode the last one. My average speeds on them, as I say, were from 20.93 is what I make it for the first one, which was actually on a slightly easier course as well, because that was before they put the Glemsford Hill finish in. And so anything from 20.93 miles an hour up to 23.69 miles an hour was my fastest. So, you look at those speeds now, they're really not that impressive. And my performances have obviously dropped over the years, but my speeds actually haven't. And so in an actual time trial, I would be pretty confident that I'd be beating those. Riding my proper time trial bike with all the full aero gear, the full works, I'd be looking at beating all of those times. I'd certainly be better, which is astonishing, really, when you think about it, to be able to do that at 60. Today, I'm going to do it on my training bike. I'm going to ride out to it. I have still got aero bars on the bike. It is still basically a sort of time trial bike. It's my old time trial bike that I used when I first restarted after a long layoff, so it's kind of 15 years old, and it wasn't very high tech at the time. But so it's not as fast, and I'm only riding very basic wheels. So it's not going to be as quick as my time trial bike would be. And I might try it again on the proper time trial bike at some point. But for today, I'm just going to see if I can get around. And I'm fairly confident that my time will be faster than the slowest of those times anyway, even on the training bike. But we'll see. It'll be an interesting experiment. Anyway, I'll show you how it goes. Here I am in Glimpsford, and I think that is probably the telegraph pole referred to as telegraph pole 19 in the course instructions, but I'm not completely certain because it hasn't got a 19 on it. If anybody's from BC, you can possibly tell me what all that means. But anyway, I strongly suspect that BT's numbering convention has changed, and probably the pole's changed because it doesn't actually look like an old pole. Probably find the other one got blown down in the storms in '87 or something. But anyway, I think I'm as close as I need to be to it. That's the final corner that I'm going to be going through in about sort of 31.5, 32 miles time. And there you can see the hill. You can probably just see the traffic going up the climb at the moment, past that dirty great field of oilseed rape and up to the church where the finish is. So it'll be interesting to see. There's obviously a lot more traffic than there used to be, and according to One Network, there's various sets of roadworks on the course. I'm not sure if there'll be any lights there or not, but if there are, I'll probably get held up. But then I got held up by traffic lights the very first year I rode it, so some things never change. But anyway, let's see how it goes. Well, after that, I had a slightly massive disaster, unfortunately, which is that I actually forgot to start the camera when I started the ride. I thought I'd be clever and switch off the camera between recording my sort of intro bit and the actual ride, and then forgot to restart it. And I didn't realise until I was on my way back when I went to switch the camera off and found that it was off. So that wasn't great. But anyway, this is the start of the ride. And what I actually did was to go out the following day and record it. So I had somewhat heavy legs, having ridden a 32.5 mile effort at near time trial pace. So my legs were a little bit achy, and so you might see there's a little bit of an edge taken off of things here, and I wasn't given full commitment. But the ride starts on a lovely bit of time trialling road, really. It follows the Glen Valley. You're on the B1066 at this stage, and the B1066 is a really friendly, easy bit of road to ride. But after that first bit, which is, as I say, really very flat, it does start to twist and climb and roll a little bit. So it does get quite tough once you're to the other side of Artist, certainly. And even here, you can see that it's just starting to pull up a bit. It's quite a tough course. I've put the elevation profile on here, and you can see it's the middle bit that is really tough. It's a lot harder than most of the early season hillies in this area nowadays, I would say. This is then Hartest. Hartest's real chocolate box village, very picturesque little place. I've put a map on here for you so you can see where we are at each of the different spots. But it's when you get to this point when you know you've got the hills coming, there's a long drag going out of Hartest, which really is quite tough. I'm afraid because my legs were a bit tired on the day after, I didn't do the entire course, so you've sort of got the beginning and the end of the course and nothing in the middle, which is a shame because you do miss some significant bits. This is much later in the course. By this point you're into your last 5 miles or so, and this is Cavendish. You've already come through Clare. I was really lucky going through Clare, which is a town, by the way. I don't ever call Clare a village, not to anybody who lives there anyway. Clare does get very busy, and there's a lot of parked cars there nowadays. And I was certainly caught up in Clare the first time I rode the event, and so how I got through it this time without getting delayed, I don't know. Cavendish can be a little bit the same, but nowhere near as bad. You're on the A1092 at this stretch, and the A1092, although it is an A road, it's not too bad for cycling on generally, a little bit careful. The A143 is a really quite busy bit of road. That's the leg that comes in the middle, and really most of this course is actually still time trial. Clare would be tricky, as I say. The A143 would kind of be uncomfortable really nowadays, which is a shame. It's got some good little hills on it for an A road, but it's just got a bit too much traffic as well. I didn't ride this at full sort of time trial effort, or at least not with a full time trial mentality. I was obviously on fully open roads, no marshals, nothing like that at all, no signage, and I sort of bore that in mind. So I wasn't giving it quite the same effort that I would have been in an actual time trial. But I tried to keep my power at more or less the sort of level I would for an event like this, just holding back that little bit when I needed to. This is a bit further down the A1092, going past Glemsford, and you sort of loop round Glemsford basically. And as you can see, it's a really quite pleasant bit of road. I use it quite a lot for training. The traffic on it's not too bad. If you're planning to ride this course as a training ride, do bear in mind that you're not racing on it. I would just hold something back and just make sure that safety comes first really, and I'd try and pick a day when the roads are going to be that little bit quieter. It'll probably do you a favour, but it'll keep things safer as well. And it really is the course that keeps on giving. So we're now sort of 2 to 3 miles to the end, and at this point there's another quite nasty little drag coming up from Glemsford towards Long Melford, and you're very relieved to be able to see Long Melford Church in the distance. You can see Long Melford Church for quite a long way, but in this particular case it's quite a welcome sight because it means you're over the top of this hill. It's quite a long drag. It doesn't look much, but it does hurt the legs, and you've still got a bit too far to go to be able to really sort of empty the tank at this point as well. Has at least got a nice surface on it now though. There was a big fuss in the local press not long ago in which a local councillor said that this was the worst bit of road in the area, which it most certainly wasn't. And anyway, it got it resurfaced, and it's now got a beautiful surface on it, which will no doubt be smashed to bits before very long. But this is the second last turn, and you're making a left turn here, back onto the B1066 again, the starting road, to head back through Stansted and to that left turn that I pointed out, which takes you up the very last climb. So at this point you do get a little bit of a rest because you've got a bit of a descent coming up here, so it's just that bit easier. This is coming through the final village of Stansted, not Stansted with the airport incidentally, but Stansted in Suffolk. If in doubt in East Anglia, then you call your village Harleston, Higham, Boxted or Stansted. It's always a good safe standby, but it does get people confused when you've got 2 or 3 of them. Anyway, I hope this has inspired you to give the course a go. It makes a good training ride, and it's a good little test. Obviously it's a shame we can't race on it anymore. I don't think it'll be safe to race, and as I've already said, please take safety first if you're using it, don't go nuts on it. And this is the final hill, so this is that final big effort, and it really does hurt after 32 miles when you hit this. It's not a massive hill, but it just gradually cranks up and takes you by surprise, so it really is quite a nasty one. The old finish line was somewhere just before the 30-mile-an-hour signs, and as you go around this bend that I'm going around here now, the hill kind of rears up in front of you, and it's long and straight after the twisty bit at the bottom, and it's steeper as well, so it really does hurt you from this point onwards. You have to drag every last little bit out of your legs. Anyway, the good news was that, as predicted, I did actually manage to do a time on this course that was sort of in touch with the times I used to do back in the 80s. So it was actually splat in the middle, really, of the times that I did. So I've put them up here on the screen, which is really quite a remarkable thing, and I think it just shows what the modern technology, mainly the bikes obviously, but to some extent the clothing, and to some extent possibly the training as well, just what a difference that's made today, and just how much faster it's possible to go, even with very basic equipment, never mind the top stuff. Anyway, as I say, I hope that's inspired you. I'd just like to leave you with one closing thought, which is I'd like to dedicate this really to Tony Hall. Tony was the organiser of the event in all the years it was held, I believe, certainly all the years that I rode, which might have been the last years of it. He was one of those mass of people who've, over the years, organised not only time trials but road races, track races, who are complete volunteers, do it purely for love of the sport, and without them it wouldn't keep on going. Tony's still with us happily, and I hope that he's well. And as I say, this is just a sign of my gratitude, and I'm sure that of a lot of other riders, for what he did all those years ago to make these events what they were.